The Buddha's revelation: your perceptions are mirages lying to you. In one of the Ice Age movies, there was a scene where the animals are on a raft, adrift in the ocean, and it's foggy and dark. All of a sudden they see a light, so they paddle over to where the light is. What they find is a whole series of mermaids and mermen lounging on rocks, luminous. The mermen are very handsome, the mermaids very beautiful. They look very welcoming, and the animals on the raft get kind of dreamy-eyed. But then, as you look more carefully at the mermaids and the mermen, you begin to see static in the image. As you look into the static, you see the fangs of piranha fish. This scene sticks in my memory. I saw it on a plane one time, because our minds are so much like that. We fall for the first appearances of things and don't look carefully. Think about when you're going to die. What if your mind still has that habit of ignoring the bad sides of things, looking for the good side, and just running for whatever? You're in this body and it's pushing you out. You can't stay here. Different images will appear to the mind based on your past karma. Some of them will be obviously unpleasant, others will be apparently pleasant. But if you look more carefully, you realize they have a lot of drawbacks, like this human realm that we came into the last time we were born. If you compare it to some of the lower realms, it's got a lot of appeal. But do you really want to come back here? The Buddha says there are better ways to die. At the very least, you want to go to a higher realm. Ideally, you want to not go to any realm at all, to be totally released. So you have to look at the mind's tendency to fool itself in the way it places perceptions on things. Perceptions are the labels it places on things that tell us what this thing is, what it means, what it's worth. And as with any label, you can put an attractive label on something that's basically pretty crappy. And there are some pretty bad labels that are on good things. Ajahn Fuang, my teacher, was a connoisseur of tea. A student one time was also a connoisseur of tea, and he brought a box of tea to Ajahn Fuang that had Mickey Mouse as its logo, and yet it was really good tea. So you can't tell things by the cover. You can't tell things by the labels. You have to learn how to look behind the labels. This is why the Buddha, when he was asked to teach a monk, Ven Girimananda, who was sick and might be dying, he told Ven Ananda to go and teach him 10 perceptions. These are perceptions to undo our tendency to see coming back to the human realm or coming back to be reborn as a good thing. Some of them are about the human body. If you were to take the human body apart, piece by piece by piece, and put it on the floor in front of you, you'd want to run away. Yet when it's all assembled like this, as you're sitting here right now, it's perfectly fine. No problem at all. But you have to ask yourself, is this something you really want? Another one of the perceptions is of the drawbacks of the body. Whatever part of the body there is, there's at least one disease, maybe many more diseases for that part of the body. As soon as you get a body, you're opening yourself up to the possibility of suffering from this disease or that. Is that what you really want? In another place, the canon talks about the fact that simply having a body means that you're subject to people yelling at you, subject to people hitting you. There are a lot of drawbacks to having a body, yet often we can think of only the good things. So you have to ask yourself, if something is attractive on the surface, is it necessarily good? Learn to look at the other side. As Ajahn Lee said, don't be a person with one eye. Be a person with two eyes. Anything that looks attractive, look for its unattractive side. Anything that looks unattractive, look for its attractive side. After all, there are some things that look unpleasant, but actually might have something good to offer. When you think about it, when you're going to die and have to be reborn, you want to be reborn in a place where you can practice the Dhamma. Sometimes those places are pretty unpredictable. Think about the northeast of Thailand, which is an extremely poor area, yet that's where the forest tradition came from. So even though if you're born in a poor house, you might have the opportunity to meet with a true Dhamma, unlike people who were born in Bangkok back in those same days, where they were taught by the monks that the path to Nibbana was closed. The path to jhana was closed, so monks should engage in social services. which means that even though you might be born in the comfort of a wealthy house in Bangkok, you might be hearing wrong view. Born in a little tiny shack in the Northeast, you might hear right view, so don't go for the appearances. Keep in mind that the Dhamma is what you want regardless of the appearances. Then look at the things that would pull you away from that determination. That's what these perceptions are for. They talk not only about the disadvantages of being born as a human being, but also about the disadvantages of being born as a diva. Any world you could go to is all going to fall apart. If it's a really good world, you get really attached. Think about the divas living comfortably. All they have to do is think, and whatever they want appears. Can you imagine how spoiled they're going to be? And how hard it will be for them when they fall? And when you take on any world, what is it made out of? It's made out of the same things that your experience of the world is made out of right here. The form of the body, feelings, perceptions, fabrications, consciousness, all very ephemeral things. How could you build anything lasting out of things that are ephemeral like this? Now, not all those perceptions are negative. The Buddha also has you think of the positive perceptions of how the cessation of these things would be a good thing. Dispassion for these things would be a good thing. This requires a certain amount of maturity to realize, yes, there is a peace that comes from dispassion, and we trust the Buddha when he says that that's the highest happiness. Years back, I was teaching the Four Noble Truths to a group up in Orange County. When we got to the third noble truth, about Nibbana, they said it didn't sound all that attractive. Then we got to the fourth noble truth, where we have jhana, the practice of right concentration, which includes pleasure and rapture. That, they said, sounded attractive. As I told them, go for the jhana first. Go for the pleasures of concentration first, and then, as you get more sensitive by creating states of concentration, you find that you ultimately do want to go for the unfabricated, something that doesn't require any putting together at all. It won't fall apart on you at all. The Buddha also has you develop these positive perceptions for cessation and dispassion. The final perception he has you focus on is the mastery of perception that comes from breath meditation. When you do breath meditation, you get more sensitive to how the mind creates its perceptions, where the allure of those perceptions is, what the drawbacks of the perceptions are. In other words, you get a better sense of what's actually happening in the mind as it feels drawn to something. As the Buddha said, perceptions are like mirages. They promise something, but then you get there and it's not there, it's someplace else. So you don't want to be driven by perceptions, but you use wise perceptions first to pull yourself away from the attraction of bad ones. It's like learning how to look at something that's for sale. Look at the label, look at the package, and say, I can't judge the item by the package. Let's look inside and see what's actually there. In other words, you're training the mind how not to fool itself or not to be fooled by its greed, aversion, and delusion. You learn how to see the tricks of greed, aversion, and delusion, how they make you think that something's going to be really good when it's not, or how they tell you that something is bad when it's actually good. You learn to look behind the label. That's when you begin to trust yourself. You have to realize that if you can't trust yourself now, while you're sitting here perfectly fine, how well are you going to be able to trust yourself when you're being pushed out of the body? You can't stay here any longer, and all the regrets and all the attachments of this lifetime come welling up in the mind. You have to learn how to not be affected by them. So the purpose of concentration is to make you strong and to provide you with a basis for discernment, so that you can begin to see through the ways the mind lies to itself with its perceptions, with its labels of things. That way, when the static comes and you can see, yes, there are fangs in the static, you know you don't want to go there, or something that may not look all that appealing to begin with. But when you get there, you realize, okay, this really is fun. The idea of dispassion, cessation, peace in body and mind may not sound all that attractive now, but as you practice meditation, you get more sensitive to what really is the mind's well-being, what really does weigh the mind down. you find that you get more and more attracted to the idea the mind's not being weighed down by anything at all. This is why the Buddha has you develop those perceptions, to incline the mind in the right direction so that it learns how to see through its own tricks and doesn't let it fool itself ever again. Present moment intelligence. I've been reading a book on visual intelligence, the way in which the eye and the brain register light waves and then make sense out of them, constructing a whole world. Just by opening your eyes and looking, you create all kinds of things. You create a three-dimensional space, and sometimes you create colors and lines where they don't even exist, but there are patterns that suggest these things to you, and that's just your eyes. One of the Buddha's most important discoveries was the extent to which your whole mind constructs the present moment. He saw that causality doesn't just happen over time, sometimes it's instantaneous. You've got raw material coming in from your past karma, but you're going to experience it because of your present karma. And not only that, you're going to shape it in certain directions with your present karma. One of the purposes of meditation is to see how you do that. This is why it's so important that the meditation focuses on the present moment, so that you get more sensitive to what you're doing, and particularly so that you learn how to see where you're adding unnecessary stress and suffering. For the most part, we tend to take it for granted. A certain level of stress, a certain level of dis-ease in life. They say that most people go through life with a certain default level of dis-ease. For some people it's higher, for some lower. Events will knock it out of that basic default level every now and then. Something will make you very happy for a while or very sad, but after a while the mind tends to go back to its basic level, whatever that was. But it doesn't have to be that way. If it had to be that way, there would be no purpose in practicing the Dhamma. There would have been no purpose in the Buddha's teaching the Dhamma. But the way we put things together can make a huge difference, and we can learn new skills for how to put them together in a better way. We can also learn new sensitivity, so that we can tell when we're doing a better job. The Buddha has you be sensitive to three things. 1, how you breathe. 2, how you talk to yourself. And then 3, the perceptions and feelings you focus on. Often these things are underground. Most people go through life without paying much attention to their breath. As for the way they talk to themselves, they take it for granted. This is the conversation. This is how it tends to be. These are the voices that tend to have power in the mind. As for the perceptions, what we think is abstract thinking is often driven by underlying images, underlying similes, analogies. But the fact that they're underlying means we don't see them. The Buddha wants us to become sensitive to these things. So we begin by focusing on the breath and learning to manipulate the breath. One of the main misunderstandings about breath meditation is that whereas in yoga, they manipulate the breath, in the Buddhist way of doing things, you don't manipulate the breath. Where that idea came from, I have no idea, because the Buddha's instructions tell you to breathe in certain ways. You breathe in ways that make you sensitive to pleasure, sensitive to rapture. You calm bodily fabrication. You breathe in ways that gladden the mind, steady and concentrate the mind, release the mind. This doesn't happen on its own. It's a training. In the course of the training, you're going to be talking to yourself as you give yourself directions. Do this, do that. Then you learn from what you've done. This is what the meditation is good for, understanding actions and their results. Sometimes you hear people saying that meditation will teach you to understand metaphysical truths about the way things are. Some say that seeing that there is no self is going to be a major spiritual landmark in your practice. But what kind of meditative practice or experience could prove something like that? What would have to disappear for you to say, okay, there is no self, or what would have to appear? Those aren't things you can learn through meditation. What you can learn from meditation is, this action leads to this result. That action leads to that result. Some actions lead to more suffering and stress than others, that you can see for yourself. And that's what meditation is good for. That's what the meditation can teach you. It's why the Buddha taught us to focus on the present moment. We're here to see patterns in cause and effect, to train ourselves, and then see what results come about. Look at the Four Noble Truths. They're about actions, either skillful or unskillful. The skillful actions would be following the path. Unskillful would be going for the three kinds of craving. Then there are results. That's what the Buddha wants us to see. Not only that, how can we move from the three kinds of craving to developing the path? It's going to require some desire. You're learning to shift the focus of your desires away from sensual pleasures, sensual fantasizing, and more toward noticing which thoughts are skillful, which thoughts are unskillful, and getting a sense of the long-term consequences of your actions. That's a shift in focus, but it requires desire as well. Then we see, acting on these desires, what happens. In other words, you commit yourself to doing the path, and then you reflect on the results. Again, you're not reflecting to see things as they are, but to see things as they work, as they function. And you begin to get a sense of when you're adding unnecessary stress. There's a passage where the Buddha describes how you progress through the different levels of concentration. It's basically noticing this. When you get the mind to settle down, learn how to appreciate the fact that it's empty of the stress that comes from being with a lot of people and having to deal with the issues of people. Of course, your issues will then fill up the space. It's like a strange fruit they have in Thailand. It's a little tiny thing about the size of a golf ball with a hard shell. You break the shell, and you put the stringy flesh into a bucket full of water. Within a few minutes, it's filled the whole bucket. It absorbs the water and expands. In the same way, when the issues of other people are taken away, you find that your issues expand to fill your whole awareness. Sometimes they can seem overwhelming. But again, all you have to do is ask yourself, what am I doing right now? How am I putting this together? Take it apart in terms of how you breathe, how you talk to yourself, the images you hold in mind, and ask yourself, exactly where am I adding unnecessary stress here? How can I stop? We listen to the Dhamma to give us alternative ways of talking to ourselves. There are so many people suffering as a result of a lack of imagination. They think they have to think in certain ways and act in certain ways, and they have no idea that there are alternative ways that are much better. So this is why we listen to the Dhamma. It's to give us some ideas, and then we can try them out. We learn from the different ajahns, we learn from the Buddha, but we have to learn how to use our own ingenuity as well. Once you've picked up some ideas from them, you begin to see that they admit of variations. It's like getting a recipe that calls for one kind of ingredient, but you realize, oh, I could substitute another ingredient there. Then you get an idea of how far the substitutions go and what you can't substitute. Still, a lot of it has to do with your imagination. There's no single way of counteracting your unskillful ways of thinking. You get ideas from other people, but then your own way of putting your ignorance together is going to be different from the way other people put their ignorance together. Some of the patterns are the same, but many of them are not. So the solutions will sometimes be the same and sometimes not. This means you'll have to learn from trial and error. As you get a better sense of how you can work variations on what you've learned, your repertoire grows, and it becomes your repertoire. All this comes from being very sensitive to the fact that you're putting things together right now. You're doing a bad job, but it is possible to learn. If you were doing a good job, you wouldn't be suffering. So you're doing something here that's adding unnecessary suffering in the mind. Learn how to notice that. Learn how to drop whatever it is that's causing it, and the mind will go to deeper and deeper stages of concentration. That's what emptiness meant in the very beginning of the teachings. Empty of disturbance. Where does the disturbance come from? It doesn't come from the birds outside. It doesn't come from the weather outside. It doesn't come from the people around you. It comes from what your mind is doing as it's putting the present moment together, in the same way that we hardly notice how the mind can construct all kinds of things out of visual images that are actually not there. You begin to realize that the mind can construct all kinds of suffering and stress in the present moment that don't have to be there. And you learn that you can stop doing that. That's what insight is. 1, seeing that you're causing stress, and 2, seeing you don't have to do it. When you see both of these facts, you don't have to tell the mind to let go. It lets go on its own. And it lets go from insight and understanding, not from feeling obligated to let go, but from seeing there's a much better way of doing things and you know how to do it.